near misses as we have it in the workplace. So what are those technical approach? What are those advanced approach? What are those socio-technical processes, approach systems that you can use to actually maximize the efficiency of the human factor to reduce workplace accident and build a culture of safety? And today we have, I call him Professor. Yes, many of us that know him to be a very sound professional. When it comes to behavioral based safety, when it comes to behavioral based safety, don't look further. When it comes to tripod better, when it comes to organizational approach, human factor, and all these approach to reduce workplace accident injuries in the workplace, you don't go further than to have a professor like Mr. Adedokun Babatunde. So on this note, I formally welcome everybody. Please, I can see some comments saying that they can't hear anything. Please, can you all hear me? Please, if you can hear me, kindly type yes in the chat room. If you can hear me, please kindly type yes in the chat room. If you can hear me loud and clear, please kindly type yes in the chat room. Yes, it means that people can hear me loud and clear. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. So I'll be going quickly to introduce our powerful speaker. I know he has a lot to tell us today. He has a lot to share with us. He was, or can I say he is, because we are still in the spirit of setting the pace. So he's one of our panelists, a panelist session at Setting the Pace 3.0. And many of the delegates that attended Setting the Pace, they were like, well, this Mr. Adedokun Babatunde, he has a lot to say, but the time allotted is not enough. Please, can we have him at one of our webinars? Can we have him to speak specifically on all what he has to say at Setting the Pace? And I approached him for that, and without further ado, and many of our panelists too, and they all agreed that, okay, we should have a spreadsheet of inviting every of our panelists, which they have all agreed to. And the first on the line is Mr. Adedokun. He didn't even give us any stress. He just said, okay, no wahala, no problem. We are doing this immediately. And I'm glad that we have him here today. And I'm talking about a professor, a professional and expert over 17, even more than 20 years of proficiency performance within health, safety, and engineering field in the manufacturing industries, analytical, articulate, strategic professional with extensive and diversified experience in engineering, operation, and production in conjunction with planning, development, integrating, and implementing expertise-wide safety programs within a variety of environments. He has demonstrated broad industry expert planning, spanning over operations and maintenance system, ISO standard, occupational health and safety management systems, emergency services, prevention programs, identifying and resolving workplace hazard using the best approach, and integrating advanced tools like the tripod beta, the tripod model, and so many like the OBM approach like we are having today in improving organizational behavior, which directly have a great effect on driving cultural transformation in the workplace. And I have the privilege within my minimum capacity to actually invite him to the podium, no other person than Mr. Adedokun Babatunde. Mr. Adedokun, please, over to you now, sir. You're welcome on podium. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much for having me this evening. Good evening, all. I want to thank you for joining this session today. I think I'm hearing me.
Yes, sir. We can hear you loud and clear, sir.
Can you hear me? I'm hearing myself, please.
Yeah, we can hear you. Maybe you need to take off your earpiece. Maybe you're using the earpiece. We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. Yeah, so I'm going to start now, and sorry, maybe I have to remove. Please confirm you can hear me now.
Yes, loud and clear. Very loud and very clear, sir.
I think perhaps we have two people using, different devices in the same room. Maybe that's why we're having this kind of echo. Okay, but let me continue, please. So, like you have rightly mentioned, so one of the major causes of accidents in the workplace is actually, behavior. So if you can address, behavioral issues, I think we're good to go. So this evening, I'm going to be talking, maybe I can quickly on my video so that you can see my face. Perhaps I can off it later. Basically, we're going to be looking at OBM. Of course, some of us have heard about OBM before, but more importantly, many of us, we are used to behavioral-based safety, but this is the father of behavioral-based safety, because when we start, you will see along the line that is very technical, highly technical, and this is actually an introduction to OBM. Basically, this evening is not enough to talk about OBM. In fact, if I'm taking the session of OBM, it's going to take close to, let's say, 2 to 3 days. I can tell you for free, 2 to 3 days. And imagine you want to use, I understand we're using 1.5 hours today to talk about OBM. So maybe if you have questions, Mr. Wali, maybe you can help me, you can notify me if I'm not able to see whoever is raising up his or her hands. Okay, so let's quickly start. So now we're going to be looking at these 4 learning objectives today. We're going to understand organizational behavior to apply its concept effectively, and also see how we can analyze work styles, communication, and trait to build strong teams. Then we're going to look at how we can develop critical thinking by assessing management styles and influence. Then enhance competency in behavior assessment, feedback, and team integration. Okay, so what is OBM? Let's quickly introduce, us to what OBM is all about. That is what we call behavior analysis. And what is this behavior analysis? So basically, it is an experimental investigation of variables that influence the behavior of any living organism. Meaning, we can use this behavior analysis to analyze the behavior of any living organism, either human being, even dog. Okay. Then there's what we call applied behavior analysis. So it's actually a system designed to analyze and change behavior in a precisely measurable and accountable manner. When you realize as we move on that behavior is observable. Behavior is something everybody can see, okay? And mostly is data driven. So you can measure it, you can measure behavior. And that is why we say, okay, OBM itself is applied behavior analysis in many business, okay? So we quickly look at performance overview. What do you mean by performance? And we look at classes of behavior. Then we're going to actually look at behavior itself. What is not a behavior? And what is what we call respondent and operant behavior. So all these behavior types of behaviors, we're going to quickly look at it, okay? Now, what is performance? Because this should actually be, an interactive session, but because of our time, because I need to move very fast. Now, performance, in OBM context is actually a unit consisting of, you are looking at a situation, let's say a scenario, then you are looking at a behavior, then you are looking at results. So these 3 elements come together, to produce a specific accomplishment. Now, you may define performance, in your own time, in your own language, but basically, this is what performance is all about. There must be a situation. You give somebody a task, the person makes a behavior, to get you the result, okay? But mind you, we have what we call results, and we can have good results and bad results. A lot of people think, what we call results must be good. No, we have good and bad results. For example, if somebody has, A1 parallel in maybe in WAHEC or maybe NECO or GC, I want to believe that it's a result. Okay, is it a good result or bad result? Maybe the answer is good result. Okay, if somebody has F9 parallel in the WAHEC result, is it also a result or not a result? The answer is maybe is a result, but is it a good result or bad result? I want to believe that it's a bad result. Okay, when you're looking at performance, performance is actually, a motivational issues. And that's why we will move to result now. So what is result itself? Okay, results, according to Daniels in 2014, he said what is left behind after a behavior is completed. That is what we call a result. And that's why in OBM, we use what we call leave-it test. Now, you as a leader, as a safety professional, can you just, maybe over the year, let's say in 2024, can you just look behind and tell the management that this is what I have left behind in 2024. This is what I've achieved, okay? And that is what, for instance, I gave the examples of F9 parallel and A1 parallel. Can somebody who has F9 parallel can, beat his chest and tell his parent that, oh, his or her parent that this is what I've achieved? So I'm sure you understand what that. So what is left after a behavior is completed? Now, talking about leave-it test, okay? Can the performer leave the result behind when he or she leaves, okay? Now, let's quickly move to classes of behavior. Now, this is very technical. Please pay attention to this. And please, if you have writing material and pen, because we're going to do some little, maybe it's not going to be a calculation anyway. Don't be scared, but we are going to write some things so that we can be able to, fall in line as we move on. Okay, now we have two main classes of behavior, and one is respondent behavior, while the other is actually operant behavior. Now, what is a respondent behavior? Basically, respondent behavior usually unconditioned. Unconditioned in the sense that you don't need to learn it. It's a reflex action. But in most cases, it can be conditioned. But when you condition respondent behavior, you must pair what we call stimulus. For instance, I want to believe we are in this room, we are actually, safety professionals. So if you hear the sound of an alarm, I want to believe that anywhere you are, you want to react, okay? React to that alarm system. The question you could ask yourself, how did you know that you needed to actually maybe stand up and respond? Maybe you move to the assembly point or thereabout. How did you know? Because you have been conditioned. And the stimulus that was paired then was the sounding of an alarm. For instance, if you carry, maybe non-educated people, I don't want to, I'm be careful because I'm on here to use names or whatever. Maybe all those people that pick, bottles or irons, on the roads. We know them. I don't need to mention names. Maybe you gather all of them in a room and they hear the sound of alarm. Do you think they will react? They will just be wondering what's happening here. What's happening here? Because why? They have not been conditioned. Okay? And conditioned in this context, it means training, learning, and so on and so forth. Okay? Now, let's quickly look at, I want to believe that we understand what respondent behavior is, meaning reflex. You respond to an action or something, okay? Somebody slap you, you want to, retaliate back. That's what respondent is all about. You sneeze, that's respondent behavior. But let's talk about operant behavior. Operant behavior usually is what we are talking about today, and that's what we'll be talking more of today. So it can be observable, and basically, usually, it's internal. But in most cases, it's always conditioned. And one of the learning process for it is what we call reinforcement. We will talk more of this, okay? And that's why we define behavior as is what an organism is doing, or more accurately, what it is observed by another organism to be doing. That's why I told you the other time that behavior is actually observable. Now, I've talked about respondent behavior, which is actually reflex, okay? please permit me, there will be a lot of, technical words that we'll be using. Maybe if you are not clear, you can raise up your hand if I can quickly answer, or maybe you wait till we end this session. So I pray God will help me to quickly rush so that I can be able to at least do justice to some of these slides, okay? Now, I have to move fast. So now, there is what we call operant behavior. Now, operant behavior is what any organization we actually need, okay? And how does it work? Operant behavior, I told you we have two types of behaviors. Operant behavior, we refer to this operant behavior as a behavior that operates or acts on the environment, okay? Operant behavior acts on the environment. I'm going to explain why it is like that. And majorly, it is being controlled by its consequence for the performer. Who is a performer? Performer is you and I. Your subordinate, their performer, okay? Now, for instance, what operant behavior is doing is basically it acts on whatever environment dictates. You remember during the panel, I mentioned that if you have two children, maybe they are twins, one is taken to Wari, another one is taken to Kano. After 10 years, you bring all of them together, two of them together. Basically, their behavior will never be the same because they are being conditioned in different environments, okay? And what determines their behavior basically is that environment and the kind of consequences, that is being applied. Now, when we move on, I'm going to tell you different types of consequences that we have. But let me give you an instance. You see people driving in Lagos State without, you see all these dampo, they drive without observing, what was it called? Traffic rules, that all those road furnitures, okay? They do not obey all these road furnitures. Why? Because of the environment. And the same people, maybe if they are educated, they travel to UK, they would never try that. Why? Because environment does not allow it, okay? So, and that's why I told you, because I want to get the basics right, so that when we move on, you will be able to relate, what I'm trying to talk about here, okay? Now, and operant behavior is measurable. You can measure it. And like I've said, it could be internal and you can also observe it. And it could also be verbal and non-verbal. In fact, there is a way somebody will look at you, you will decode the kind of message the person is. In fact, when we're growing up, when our parents, when they just turn their eyes like this, we know what they are talking about. That's a behavior or non-verbal behavior. And verbal behavior must, two people must be involved. There is a listener and the speaker, okay? Now, but organization only can add value through behavior. You all know that. And it requires value-adding operant behavior. Now, let's quickly look at this. There's what we call dead man's test in OBM. What do you mean by dead man's test? It means that if a dead man can do it, then it is not a behavior. During my sessions, when I ask people, okay, if you see somebody wearing glasses, or a pair of glasses, maybe somebody wearing glasses, is that a behavior or not a behavior? Somebody can just mention that maybe quickly so that I would know whether I'm talking to myself or I'm talking to people here. If you see somebody seated on a chair and you saw him you saw glasses on him, is it a behavior or not a behavior? Can anybody just quickly respond? You can unmute yourself and quickly respond, please. If you know the answer.
It's not a behavior.
Yeah, different response in the chat room. Mr. Okon said it's a behavior. Mr. Bamidele said it's not a behavior. It's not a behavior. It's not a behavior. Not a. We have more of not a behavior than a behavior.
Very good. Very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Wali. That's what I want to hear. It is not a behavior because a dead man can wear glass. Not that you see him wearing it, but you can see what's it called? A dead man with glasses. Definitely wearing a glass or glasses It's not a behavior. It's not enough as a behavior. For instance, when our of blessed memory, when they died, he was buried with glasses. Okay. In fact, you can see somebody seated like a normal human being. You understand my point? Wearing glasses, and you think it's a human being. It's not a behavior. Okay. Meaning that what a dead man can do is not a behavior. You look at yourself, because a dead man is never active. Okay, so now when you are active, then you are demonstrating a behavior. That's what we are trying to talk about here. Okay, because of our time, I'm going to move forward. But bear in mind, what a dead man can do is not a behavior. Thank you, Mr. Bamide. Thanks other people who have responded. Okay, now let's quickly move on. Now, operant behavior is not vigorous. What is vigorous? When we are talking about vigorous, sorry, because this is my. I don't usually have this kind of sessions, virtually. It has to be in the club because a lot of practical, a lot of things that we need to actually do together so that we can, be well carried along. So what is operant behavior and what is not operant behavior? So what we call vigors, we talk about values, we talk about generalities, we talk about attitudes and states. Now, what is values? Now, in OBM context, for the fact that you are open, for the fact that you are honest, it's not enough as a behavior. You can be honest, you can be open, whereas you are not really adding meaningful, value to the organizations. For instance, you see some of our politicians, when we put them in, I like that. We once had the president here. For me, I voted for him personally because I was told that this man was sincere, this man was honest, this man has no this, has no that, has never embezzled money. Okay, but is that enough to give us the value that we actually desire as a nation? So I'm sure it's not enough. Okay, so now generalities, you might be a professional, you can even form a teamwork to cause problem for the business. You can communications that can be even negative one that can disrupt the business. Attitude, maybe you are positive, fine, you are positive, you are committed, you are conscious. For instance, I once had this in one class that, if you employ somebody, this guy has he's so cost conscious, he's aware, cannot steal your money, but you are not making profits. It's no customer satisfaction, customer is zero. Okay. And will you have preferred, because it's cost conscious, because it's committed. You can be busy and not productive. I tell people that. And that's where you need to remember the Desmond test. A lot of people are here today, in this room or in this, virtual, meetings, but maybe they are not here. Their minds are somewhere else. Okay. Now, that means that means you are not active. That's what it means. So you are busy. You can be busy, but your minds are somewhere. So you can be busy, but not productive. That's what I'm trying to talk about. Okay. Now, let's quickly look at condition, because I mentioned conditioning the other time. Let's quickly look at it. We'll look at classic conditions, operant conditioning, and functions of behavior. Like I've said, conditioning basically is a technical term for learning. Okay. And I talked about responded behavior the other time. There is a man called Pavlov. Some of us who are biologists, I'm an engineer, I'm not a biologist, okay? So some of us who are biologists, we remember this man called Pavlov, who actually paired, the food with ringing of the bell, okay? And when you ring the bell, when you are serving a dog the food, you ring the bell. What happens to the what's it called? To the dog? Dog, starts salivating because over time you have been doing that. That's the example I gave for the alarm system the other time. Over time you have been hearing the alarm, you have been responding, so you have been conditioned to act in that way. Okay. Now let's quickly move on because of our time. Now, majorly, when you are talking about operant conditioning, you are learning from consequence. Consequence could be negative or could be positive. And behavior is a function of its consequence. whenever you are talking about behavior, what keeps behavior moving, what stops the behavior is as a result of a consequence that is being applied. So you can now determine which kind of consequence you will now apply, then in what way. So, and that is what will take us to the next point here. We talked about 4 functions of operant behavior. Now, we have 4 functions. Number 1 is what we call attention. This attention, then the second one is escape, then tangibles and prepared items, then we have biological, then sensory stimulation. I will quickly explain all these functions. So number 1, operant behavior is functional when it permits an individual to get what they seek. Meaning that when you are seeking something and that permits you to get what you are seeking. For instance, you want to excel in your maybe in your academy or whatever. And maybe as you are scoring high mark, your lecturer is actually, maybe appreciating you for doing that. So, and you are reading more also to get that appreciation from your lecturer. So it permits you to get what I just use that as an example. It can be many examples. For instance, let me give you one practical real life scenario. When I was in school in those days in higher institution, so basically I had one lecturer then. So he, when you talk about attention, now, sorry, I was talking about that, but let me quickly talk about this. So now, automatic reinforcement, it can be socially mediated. When you talk about reinforcement, it's not only money, it's not only common thank you, common well done, can go a long way, okay? Now, let me quickly go to attention because of our time. So this man that I call, because I told you about 4 functions of behavior. Now, this man told me, okay, he gave us mathematics, tests, and I scored almost everything. So this man called me out in front of everybody, over 350 people. Now, this man is seeking the attention of every other person there. Okay, attention can be positive or negative. Okay, now, remember I told you that operant behavior, is functional when it allows you to get what you are seeking. Now, in that particular time, I was so happy. He gave me some gifts I can never forget. So, and I was so happy. I was so happy in the sense that, I didn't expect it. Now, we became friends, okay? Over a long period of time, this man now, when I now wanted to move to another class, he told me, Tunde, if you are able to, get this grade, very high grade, anyway, he said, I'm going to give you a free accommodation. Remember, he paired something with, the feedback he gave to me that, oh, get this, then I will give you this. I have to now read without anybody forcing me to read. He could have said, yeah, sit down in my office, then I want you to be reading. Okay? Now, with that, I have to now read. And when I actually, got that grade, I told him, sir, this one, he was very happy, congratulations. And he gave me the accommodation as promised. We're going to when we get to trust and respect, we'll talk more about that. Okay? Now, attention could be positive and negative. For instance, you see a Dampo man, when it's arrested by LASMA, they will remove their clothes. That's a negative way of getting attention. They will remove their clothes. In fact, some will use physics to rub their body so that they cannot be apprehended. These are negative way to get the attention. Okay, he said that it helps you to get what you want, or it helps you to escape, from any undesired circumstances or events. Okay, now let's quickly look at escape. Escape is similar to attention. We want to escape. For instance, you don't want fire to happen in your room, or you need to do good housekeeping. In doing good housekeeping is you are escaping, from fire incident. So, and that is a reactive part of escape. But proactive part of escape. But reactive part of escape is, you you don't want the entire house to get engulfed with fire, then you have to now maybe use fire extinguisher to, the fire has already started. So all your actions there is a reactive action, okay? But at the end of the day, you don't want the fire, to burn the entire house. And that is a reactive part of escape. Let's quickly move to tangibles and preferred items. So this is the third one. This one has to do with operant behavior, how it interacts with environment. And you use one object to get, for instance, you are able to, for instance, I did one project in my office some years ago, and which actually reduced our waste by 91%. The waste that go to the cost of destruction by 91% and the waste reduction by 22%. So management was so happy. They gave us, some award that is tangibles. For instance, Coda Safety Consult during the setting the pace 3.0, they cut a lot of people out to give them the award. Okay, tangibles provided. Of course, those ones that were awarded, they are being reinforced. Next year, they will want to also be in that particular program. Okay, because you perform to get objects that you want. That's what we mean by tangible and preferred items. So let's quickly move to the last one, which talks about biological sensory and stimulation. So this one has to do with what we call something that comes within you, okay, that is natural. For instance, pleasure, comfort, happiness, satisfaction, fulfillment, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now, this is where we are going. So when we are talking about OBM, the engine room of OBM is what you call the ABC model. Okay. And this ABC model is what is going to determine how we understand this OBM concept. Okay, how we can use it to drive the behavior. And I've told you to please get a pen and a note, because I'm going to be talking about some things now that you may need to quickly put down. Okay. Now, we talk about ABC, we talk about 4 types of consequences. We look at ABC analysis, consequence analysis. Then what are the strategies we can use to influence the behavior? Then we look at the 3 pitfalls of behavioral change, okay? Now, let's quickly look at ABC model. ABC model shows how operant behavior can be, enumerated, can be explained. When you are talking about behavior, every behavior is affected by something that comes before that behavior, okay? And the effect produced by the behavior, which is consequent. So what comes before a behavior is called antecedent, okay? Antecedent usually comes before behavior. It prompts people to act, okay? Consequence always follows the behavior, but antecedent precedes the behavior. And what consequence does is that consequence affect the probability that that behavior will reoccur in the future. Okay, I'm going to explain in details as we move on. Now, this is the ABC model overview. Now, I want somebody to quickly tell me, why do we have tick line before consequence? Why do we have broken line before behavior? And when do we have another line returning to antecedent from consequence? Please, I need somebody to quickly respond to that. Thank you. I want somebody to quickly respond to that.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Please
Good
tell
afternoon,
us.
everyone.
Good afternoon.
All right, Chineme on the line. Yeah, so the broken line. First of all, let me start with the line that's taking back from consequence to antecedent. It means that it's like a cycle. The antecedent, it's showing that it predates the behavior, and is not entirely saying that all antecedents, that any behavior someone exhibits is as a result of a certain type of antecedent. So that's why the thin line is there. The thick complete line is showing that every behavior has a consequence. Every behavior has a consequence. Thank you.
Okay. Well done. Bravo. Thank you very much. So what about the line that returns to antecedent? I didn't get that.
I said that one is like
you got it correctly, but what about the line that returns to antecedent?
The line returning from consequence to antecedent is that it's a cycle that's going to be repeated, especially when consequences is not properly addressed.
Very good. Thank you. Well, maybe let me help you more. I think you have really tried. I give you 99.9%. Fantastic. So now, the reason why you see this thick line is that for every behavior, there must be a consequence. But the reason why you have, what's it called? Broken lines before behavior is that antecedent only prompts a behavior, but does not necessarily mean that it's going to cause the behavior. I can give you some instances. Your parents may be smoking. When your parents are smoking and you live in that environment, you remember operant behavior acts on the environment. Remember that your dad, your parent, or your father, so to speak, is laying a foundation for you to start smoking. Because if you're also smoking together, the man will not have moral justification to correct you, okay? But it now left, for you to either smoke or you don't smoke, okay? But antecedent triggers the behavior, but does not necessarily cause the behavior, okay? Now, while you see the other line returning to antecedent, it means that every consequence that anybody has, okay, as a result of your behavior, is also an antecedent for your future behavior. That's what it means. Okay, I'm sure we are clear with that. Okay, let's move on. Now, yes, now please take your pen and note, and let's quickly look at this terminologies. And this is what's going to guide us as we move on. Okay, now there's what we call consequence overview. I told you we have 4 types of consequences. Okay. Now, basically, number 1 is I get what I want, or you get what you want. Okay. What do you mean by I get what I want? I get what I want. Please write R plus. Write R plus. I told you we're going to do some little, it's not mathematics anyway, so, but at least little, codes we're going to write. Now, you get what you want. That's R plus. Please quickly put that. Then you don't get what you don't want. That is R negative. Then you get, somebody's writing, somebody's writing here. Okay, so, okay, somebody's writing on the screen. Okay, you don't get what you don't want. That is R negative. Then you get what you don't want. That is P plus. Then you lose something you have, or you don't get what you want. It's the same thing. That's P negative. Okay? Now, are we all done? Please just use emoji and thumb up if you have written that, please, quickly. Just thumb up. Let me see how many people have written that. It shows that people are not writing it. Okay. So now, okay, so let's move on. R plus, because it's a positive, we call it positive reinforcement. It's positive because you get what you want. Why? Because something is added to the environment of the performer, which performer want to get it, or he gets what he actually wanted. That is R plus. Then you don't get what you don't want. It means R negative. And R plus, your behavior will continue to go up or stay the same because you get what you want. Look at the example I gave the other time about that lecturer, okay? Then you don't get what you don't want. It means that, okay, let me first start with you get what you want. Okay, based on your behavior, you are being rewarded or you are being awarded, for that particular positive behavior that you have demonstrated, meaning that you get what you want. That behavior will continue to go up. Okay, then you don't get what you don't want. It means that you escape. You don't want to get, nobody likes blame. Nobody likes to be shouted on. Oh, guys, are you okay? Are you stupid? Nobody wants to hear that. When you know your line manager, somebody that could, come with such behavior, when he asks you to do something, you may want to do it immediately. Example is even audit. When audit is coming, people will start preparing. because you don't want to pay the audit. You don't get what you don't want. Okay, that is R negative. Then you get what you don't want, meaning that something is added to the environment of the performer, okay, which the performer does not like, for instance, and that has to do with, negative behavior, or what we call undesired behavior, meaning that when you get what you don't want, okay, it means that something is added to your environment that you will not like. Example is you give somebody query. For instance, one of my friends applied through what's it called, BRT, and it was apprehended, and he paid 75,000 naira fine. That year, more than 5 years ago, he got what he does not want. That's what we call punishment. Okay. Another name for P plus is punishment. Now, let's now look at the last one, which is P negative. P negative is more stronger than P plus. Both of them are punishment, but that of P plus is higher, and that's why we call it penalty. Penalty in the sense that something that is valuable from you is taken away from you. Example, this guy that I said he paid the fine, maybe next time, maybe second offender, if he was arrested, maybe they impound the vehicle. He has lost something that he has. I'm sure, I don't want to be giving several examples because of our time. So that behavior will definitely decrease over time. The same thing with punishment, that behavior will decrease. But we are going to talk more of what is positive reinforcement, R plus, what is R negative, then what is P plus, and what is P negative, okay, as we move on. Now, when we look at ABC analysis, we use it to actually investigate the causes of behavior by analyzing what comes before and after the behavior of interest. We look at, we use different methods to investigate, incident, but this time around, we use ABC analysis to investigate behavior. You can also use ABC analysis to investigate the incident, okay? But more importantly, for behavior, okay? Now, you look at, the question is, why will a person do this? Why will it be behaving this way, okay? And we look at what are the antecedents. Why is it behaving like that? What are the, antecedents that, that prompt such behavior? Then we're going to actually identify, was there a consequence for this, behavior? And if you have a consequence, which kind of consequence for this behavior? Remember, there could be desired behavior and undesired behavior, okay? Now, and that's what we call consequence, and I know I've told you about ABC analysis. Then we also have a consequence analysis attached to ABC analysis. And what are we looking at there? Consequences can be classified and rated on several dimensions. It shows, we look at the relative power and strength of each of the consequences, okay? And most importantly, we look at, is it positive? Is it negative? Is it immediate? Is it future? Is it certain or uncertain? Okay, when it is positive or negative, how the performer expresses the produced consequence. When it is immediate or future, we look at the time in between, because immediate reward, outweighed, future reward. For instance, if I tell you, oh, I'm going to give you, maybe everybody in this room, I'm going to give you 100,000 naira each today. Okay, after the meeting, I'm going to give you 100,000 naira. And I also promise you, oh, in the next 5 years, I'm going to give you one vehicle. Which one will you have preferred? I'm sure all of you here, 99% will prefer 100,000 naira after this. Why? Because it's immediate reward. Because you don't even know what will happen in the next couple of minutes, the next 5 years. You don't know what will happen. Okay? So basically, this is how we look at the relative power and strength of the consequence. And again, you should look at the consequence. Is it something that is certain? Is it something that is actually uncertain? Okay. Now, immediacy and certainty of consequences influence behavior the most. And that's why we're going to quickly look at example. Because of our time, this should be a kind of, combined, maybe classwork. We do something like exercise, okay? But I won't be able to do that because I still have a lot of, slides to cover today. Okay. Now, let's quickly look at a scenario of smoking a cigarette. Okay. Now, the question is, why will somebody be smoking cigarettes? just to investigate. I'm not saying whether smoking cigarettes, whatever. I'm not trying to, but we are learning, okay? So now, why will somebody be smoking a cigarette? Okay. Now, you want to investigate what is making this guy to be smoking all the time. Now, I should be asking you, you'll be telling me this, that, okay. The first thing is that you look at what are the antecedents. My left, the column at the left-hand side is antecedent. Then what we are trying to investigate is that smoking a cigarette. When we now look at consequences, what are the consequences of smoking a cigarette? Number one, look at antecedent. Okay, why is he smoking? Feeling pressure, waiting to be part of a team, want to join, wants to belong. Okay, I want to belong, when to look cool, I want to get cool. Feel the need for nicotine. Cigarette contains nicotine. See other people smoking too. Maybe your parent, your brother has been smoking, okay? See a package, or maybe you just saw a package of a cigarette. Let me just try it. Some people have tried that when they were growing up, okay? So then here advertising for cigarette, and that's why you see government ban, the anything advert on tobacco smoking thereabout, okay? Because that can be an antecedent for people's behavior. That's why they ban it, okay? Now, here advertising for cigarettes, I've finished a meal. Some people, when they finish meal, they want to, have a coffee and I want to smoke, blah, blah. I have some emotion, maybe the cold weather. We can continue to list 100 of these. These are antecedents, okay? Now, you now look at, for somebody smoking, what could be the consequence of smoking? Maybe they smell bad, at times cough, but when you look at somebody smelling bad, is he positive or negative to the performer? Maybe it's negative for him. Is he immediate or future? Of course, immediately when somebody smokes, you perceive the odor. But is it certain or uncertain? It's actually certain. In most cases, except you use the odorizer, you must smell, smoke, okay? Tobacco. Now, I must stop. Well, it is negative to the performer. It is not immediate. It's future, even though you are going to cough at all. But is it certain or it's uncertain? It's not everybody that smokes that cough. Okay? So now, when you smoke, maybe consequently you lose respect. Maybe some people don't respect you anymore. Oh, I don't know that guy is smoking. Let me be far away from him or something like that. For those who don't like smoking. Okay? Is he negative to him or it's negative for him? Is he immediate or future? It's going to be immediate. Okay? Then, is it certain or uncertain? It's uncertain. Some people, that's why they even like you more when you are smoking. Okay? Now, let's quickly look at PIC. PIC is the one that we are looking for. Okay? PIC is, you are smoking because the consequence, I'm part of the group. I want to belong. I enjoy smoking. I feel better because I get nicotine. It's positive for him, okay? It's also immediate. You get that benefit immediate. Then it's also certain. That's why it will continue to smoke, okay? So now, let's quickly look at 3 pitfalls for behavioral change. Now, the first one is what we call, when you focus too much on antecedent, is a pitfall for a leader. A lot of people, they don't, see anything good in their team. Their own approaches, punishment, consequence, this and that, okay? They look at antecedent, because of they influence him, they do this, because of his background, blah, blah, blah. When you focus too much on antecedent, is a pitfall. Then number 2 is when you overuse negative consequence. Every time you punish, give him query. I'm going to talk more about that as we move forward. Focus on material C for result. Please take note. If you focus too much on negative consequence, it's a pitfall. And if you also focus on material consequence for result, meaning that you focus on material consequence, but you reinforce behavior, you don't reinforce results, okay? Please take note of that. Why? When you reinforce the result, people will give you anyhow results. But when you reinforce the behavior that gives the result, then that behavior will continue to give you that result, okay? So now, let's quickly look at antecedent. What is an antecedent? Okay, we've really talked more about antecedents. I won't want to, but I'm going to just tell you the power of antecedents, okay? Like I've said, anything that precedes and prompt behavior to occur is what we call an antecedent. And please take note, antecedent provides information about behavioral consequences. And it's also set the equation for the behavior. For instance, when you say, okay, maybe when you touch this, danger, maybe you put a danger sign that when you touch, you'll be electrocuted. That sign is an antecedent. But what is an antecedent? Everything in your surrounding, including human being, everything is an antecedent. Okay? Because it provides information about behavioral consequence. Then it's also set the occasion for the behavior. You see, some people they will tell you that okay, when I get to that place, I'm going to mention it. Oh, don't urinate here. The herbalist wants to use your woo. You know, something like that in Yoruba language. Don't, and at the end of the day, you urinate there and nothing happens. Okay? Now, that's information that somebody wrote there is an antecedent. But before antecedent can be effective, you must be able to pair the consequence with that antecedent. That's where we are going. Okay? If you cannot pair the consequence and antecedent, then antecedent is useless. So now, what are the other terms we actually use to qualify antecedent? Is a stimuli, antecedent stimuli, motivating circumstances, activators, discriminative stimuli, motivating operations, establishing operations, setting event is set event for the behavior. It triggers behavior, it signals the behavior, but does not necessarily cause the behavior. Okay. Now, let's quickly look at this. Antecedent comes before behavior, but does not cause behavior. Now, antecedent communicates information on behavior and consequence. The antecedent can be planned or unplanned. Then consequence can also be an antecedent. Like I told you how the arrow went back, okay? Then consequence for one person can act as an antecedent for another person. Then, for instance, like my friend that applied, what's it called? BRT lane. Of course, you know, I will never try that because I've learned from him. That is an antecedent for my own future behavior. So his own consequence is an antecedent for my behavior now. Then I can also copy behavior of somebody to get the same consequence. For instance, somebody was doing well in his academy. I can meet him to say, oh, how are you doing it? I want to also learn the way you are doing, so that I can also get the same consequence at the end of the day. Okay. C for one person can also be an antecedent for that same person. For you, you have learned a lesson from the previous consequence. It can also be an antecedent for your future, behavior. Okay. Now, let's quickly move on. What is the effective use of antecedent? Like I've said earlier, before your antecedent can be effective, you need to pair it with consequence, and it must be valuable or meaningful to a person, to that particular performer, and it must immediately precede behavior. For instance, I told people, why do you think people don't believe there was COVID in Nigeria? Because of a very weak antecedent. Because there was no consequence, there was no correlation between the antecedent and the consequence. What is an antecedent? Antecedent is actually what was happening then. People dropping dead outside Nigeria. But in Nigeria, you cannot relate to a woman, to somebody in your neighborhood to say, oh, what killed him or what killed her is actually COVID. Why do you now want people to believe? Because no consequence. Okay, you cannot pair the antecedent with the consequence. That you see people, you see market women, they even sweat. You see markets full during that period, and you didn't hear that 10 people dropped dead in the Okeani market as a result of COVID. If that happens, nobody. You know that even when in my office I was begging people to take COVID, vaccine. You understand? We are trying to persuade them. Though it's not compulsory, you have option to take or not to take. You understand? But imagine they heard that, so area, 10 people died and they fell down on the road. Do you think anybody will beg them? Because they learned, because there was a correlation between the antecedent and the consequence. I don't know if anybody is actually getting it. If before your antecedent can be effective, there must be high correlation between the behavioral consequence it is actually associated with. If the anticipated consequence does not happen, then antecedent will quickly lose power. For instance, I gave the example of urinate here, Abalis wants to use your urine. At the end of the day, you urinate there. I'm sorry, you urinate there, and nothing happens. There was no correlation between the behavioral consequence that's actually associated with. And that's why you see people will continue to urinate in that. I did somebody was urinating and it dropped there. Do you think anybody will try that next time? That's what we are talking about, effective use of antecedent. So look at this picture. You quickly look at this picture. Now, all these things you see in this environment, they're antecedents. Let's assume that, let me see somebody. Okay, let me see. Okay, Olada Kolabinton. Let's say I enter you invited me, and I saw your kitchen like this, and you served me a food. Do you expect me to start washing everything here? Because I have the antecedent already. Okay, I will most likely drop the plate here as well. Okay, but that doesn't mean that it's going to, maybe I may behave differently to watch only my own. That's why we said antecedent may not necessarily cause behavior. Okay, so I may decide to wash only my own, but I cannot start washing all this. Okay, now, but when I come to health, everywhere is clean. Even your parents, or maybe everybody, your dad came to greet you and wash his own plate. Who am I to now say I finished my food, I will not wash my own plate and drop it there as well? Okay, I'm just giving an instance. Okay, so this is how antecedents actually work. Now, because of our time, maybe I may skip this. Talking about positive reinforcement, this is a very good example of a school that they put them in different, what's it called? I tried to hide the identity of this one, the name of the young girl. So once they perform certain grade in their, maybe they have maybe 85% and above, they will invite them to what we call director's lunch. Okay, and they use it to honor them. They serve them this letter. I came across this letter. Okay, and they will give them serve yourself. They will so every student want to be in purple class. It's not only purple class that will actually make that director's lunch. You must have certain grade. Okay, you see how antecedent can be paired with consequence. The consequence is positive consequence. That's what we call positive reinforcement, because they reinforce their behavior. And these guys, these young kids, we want to, everybody, they are now struggling to say, I want to be in director's lunch, I want to be in director's list. They are now reading, effectively to be able to get what they want. Remember, I get what I want. That's R plus. Okay. When we move on, I'm going to tell us, more about this. Now, let's quickly look at trust and respect. Respect and trust, they are two different things. Okay. Now, respect, somebody can be respected. Okay, I'm not talking about somebody being an elder, you are giving him respect. Okay, so what makes somebody to respect somebody or another person is based on trust. Okay, if I cannot trust you, my brother or sister here, I cannot respect you. Okay, and how can I trust you? You must change behavior by, you need to constantly pair antecedent with consequence. That's what for instance, that's why the Nigerians, they could not trust the government at some point, because they said COVID was a rich man's disease. Okay? Because they could not consistently pair the antecedent with consequence. Now, you do what you say you are going to do. That's an antecedent. When you say meet at so time, you meet at that so time. When you say I'm going to punish you for this behavior, make sure that punishment happens. Okay? I'm not saying you go and take cane and finish your child at home. So I'm just saying, when you tell your child, for this behavior, I'm going to flog you, make sure that flog happens. If it doesn't happen, I'm telling you, next time that baby will not take you seriously. Again, if your baby has done something very spectacular, maybe he excelled very well in academic, you need to also ensure that you reinforce that behavior positively. You know why? In doing that, you are also constantly pairing antecedent with consequence. Consequence in this case is what we call positive reinforcement. Okay? And that child will be very happy and wants to actually do more. the same thing with what I told you about this director's lunch. They cannot miss it every year. I think, sorry, every time they do this director's lunch, every time. So, and they are consistent with it. And that is why every child, and that's why when you now look at this, the performance of that school, at the end of the year, they always excel, you know, in their WAEC results. Now, I don't know if time will permit me to play this. Talking about
one day, Stanley called me.
Video.
There was this young man that used to help him. He used to supply diesel to Julius Berger. That young man died, and he needed some money. If I can introduce him to First Bank, whether they can do business with him. He didn't ask me to give him money. I said, do you run account with First Bank? I said, send me the statement of your account. And I will tell you now, Stanley never asked me for money. Many of you believe I'm very stingy. Yes, I'm very stingy. I'm one of the most stingiest person in Anambra because I worked hard for my money and I don't throw it around. So, I have value for every 1 naira I spend, but I look for something that is important. Ask Stanley. Stanley told me when he saw a lot in his account, he opened the phone fell out of his hand. I wired 150 million naira in his account. This was several years ago. 150 million naira. I said, do whatever you are going to do, return the money to me. But please be careful. I sat Stanley down and talked to him. I said, there are ways you are going, don't go that way. Listen, life is how much you can impact people's life. If it's only one person, you can make a difference in Anambra State. Stanley didn't return that money until the 2nd year, but he returned it in full. And we didn't go to court with it. And please listen to me. I didn't write any agreement with him. He could call me the following day and tell me, sorry, you didn't give me any money. For many of you who think and give you.
I have to move because of time. Okay, you heard the story. No agreement. You could say, oh, this man, you didn't give me 1 naira, and they start court case and thereabout. Trust and respect, okay? When you check the pictures below, you see the way those elderly men and the young kid behind them. So many antecedents. That's the way they folded their hands, like that's an antecedent, okay? And the young baby, I mean, this baby, whatever, was also emulating them. So many that you don't need biro and, you know, notebook to train your children how to behave. They learn from you. In fact, you are like their role model. They learn whatever your behaviors are in the house, and they also want to, you know, emulate the same thing. Because of our time, I won't be able to. So we talk about consequences also. This one is also very technical, but I will quickly, you know, move very fast. Consequence, anything that follows a behavior and changes the probability that behavior will occur in the future. I've talked about this. When you talk about consequence, how you can stop a behavior or how you can increase behavior. You increase the positive behavior while you stop, you know, undesired behavior. Okay. Reinforcer, that's what we call reinforcer, is actually something that strengthens the behavior or maintains, you know, the frequency of the behavior that precedes it. So reinforcers are held. You don't just wake up someday and one day and say, okay, I want to reinforce you for what? It must be held. You must work for it, and you must deserve that you know, reinforcement. I will quickly move. That's what we call deprivation, is a terminology in this OBM. When a procedure which you know, in general, increase the probability of a group of response, meaning that you deprive, for instance, if our government, if they want to increase fuel price, what do? It will become very scarce. When it is scarce, fuel is an essential commodity. Everybody will be looking for it. Even though they call it 2,000 naira per liter, you are ready to buy because you need it. You need to move out. That's what we call deprivation. So if you want to increase behavior, you can deprive them of certain reinforcement. You just release it once in a while, not all the time, okay? So that it can have value. That's why they say unavailability of a reinforcer to the extent that its effective increases, okay? Then opposite of it is saturation. When you reinforce too much, it loses value. People don't even value it any longer. Okay, so that's why deprivation sometimes is a bit fine. Okay, now we've talked about positive reinforcement. Please, because of our time, I need to move on because I need to tell you how you will now apply all this I'm saying in your workplace, and that is more important, please, to me. Now, I talk about R plus the other type, which is positive reinforcement. Basically, positive reinforcement, what it does, like I've said earlier, something is added to the environment of the performer, and the performer wants to perform to get it again. That is positive reinforcement. And that is the only behavior that can add value to the organization. You understand my point? So now, it is what can give any business maximum performance. When you are, maybe you are known for punishing people all the time. Let me tell you, punishment is good. Negative consequence is fine. You can use it to start a behavior, but it cannot sustain the behavior. I can guarantee you that. It cannot. Why it cannot sustain the behavior? I will explain to you. Now, if you take a ball, you put the ball inside the water. Who can tell me what will happen to the ball when you release your hand? Who can tell me, please?
It floats.
Eh? It floats.
It floats.
Very good. Very good. And why do you think
it comes up again?
Very good. Fantastic. It comes up again. Why will it come up again? Because you've stopped the punishment. By suppressing the ball inside the water, that's a punishment. The moment you release your hand, the ball springs up again, meaning that, for instance, let me give you a very practical example that you can all see around. During Fashola, Governor Fashola, Babatunde Raji Fashola, he wanted to, when you talk about hierarchy of control in terms of risk management, you will see that elimination is one of the best control you can think of, general control. But let's talk about elimination first. So he looked at Lagos State. He saw the Okada on the road. People are dying every day. In fact, he went to Bobi, blah blah, and he saw a lot of people broken hands, and he said he wanted to put a stop to this nonsense. Now, you can either eliminate people from hazard or you eliminate hazard from the people. But in Lagos State, you cannot eliminate people from the road. You could only eliminate, maybe Okada from the road or highway. Governor Babatunde Fashola did that, and he made sure that he enforced this across Lagos State then, especially on the highway. And also, he enforced the use of helmets. Now, maybe another government came in, and maybe they tried to suppress that, maybe for political reasons or the reasons best known to them. And what happened? The punishment stopped. In fact, it was worse. That's maybe first or second year after the man left the office. That is an example of punishment. Okay, so that's why positive reinforcement. When you punish someone, I'm not saying punishment is not good, but people need to know why they behave in certain way. People need to know how that behavior should continue. Okay, now if you think punishment is what can give you the result, fine. But do you know that when you are no longer there, people would behave the other way around? Okay, because they are only avoiding you, they are only escaping you. Remember, we talked about escape as function of behavior. They are only escaping you. They will it is going to spring back. And when you are not also, in fact, when punishment can be effective, I'm not saying it's not good, but you need to continually punish. If you stop punishment, I tell you, it's going to be worse than the previous. For instance, when you go to abroad, those of you that travel outside Nigeria, you see that you can never escape punishment when you violate. Meaning that they fear anticipated the consequence and it's very effective. Though it's very expensive to do that. But I tell you, even minister, if you violate, in Nigeria is where we do selective punishment, where therefore we escape they will violate the the traffic rules, we will not bother about. But when private cars are coming, we apprehend them. Okay. So now let's quickly look at dopamine. Why out plus works? If behavior produces desired result, the brain produces what we call a neurotransmitter called dopamine. What is dopamine? Dopamine is that thing that produces an addictive pleasure wave. For instance, if you are dribbling, and remember when JJ Okocha was playing then, when he was dribbling, hey, people say, hey, you see that he will not want to drop the ball. He will continue to dribble until they collect the ball from him. Okay? So that pleasure wave, that is what we call dopamine. Now, that dopamine is what basically keeps the behavior moving. And that thing that can give, that A they are doing is a positive reinforcement. Like I've said, I'm not talking about only tangible before you can reinforce behavior positively. Well done. Somebody has done something good. Why can't you celebrate them? People are behaving in a very positive way to safety, health, and environment. Why can't you call it out? Why can't you, maybe during your safety week, during whatever, why can't you recognize some exceptional behavior on safety so that behavior will continue? Why can't you pinpoint people? Why is it that only people that are violating we are always looking for? Remember 3 pitfalls I mentioned to you. When you focus too much on antecedent, when you focus too much on consequences for the result. Okay. Now let's move on. When you punish all the time, people will give you minimum result. But when you reinforce positively, I tell you, people will go extra mile to give you the results. When I'm talking about OBM, it's not only applied to safety, health, and environment. Please, let's get that right. Okay. Now, how do we use fun to actually reinforce people positively? Please listen to this video. Please pay attention to this video, please. Okay, so I think on this note, let me just see if somebody can, what did you see in that video? Who can quickly summarize that video to be sure that you pay attention to that video? Anybody?
I think the stairs were giving musical sounds, and that really interested or pulled the interest of people into using the staircase. So as they climbed the stairs, they could hear musical sounds, and that was fun.
Very good. So what can we call that in that particular sound? What can we call it in from the study now we've had today?
Dopamine.
It's giving them dopamine, but something came first before dopamine. Who can try?
A positive reinforcement.
We said
positive reinforcement.
Very good. Positive reinforcement. That's what we are talking about. You see, this sand reinforce them positively. Without forcing them, they behave themselves. You can see it's possible the management of this maybe airport or wherever, they could put soldier there, yeah, hey, go like this. Hey, when that soldier is, and you know, I told you punishment, you need to spend money to effect punishment. And you can imagine all the time, you know, you put somebody there, yeah, hey, don't follow. Maybe it could be an initiative to say, oh, I want people to exercise, okay? It could be an initiative to save energy and so on and so forth. But in one way or the other, they didn't force them because of this positive reinforcement. It's not the only money that is possible. You can look at something, you can look at fun, you know, to make people, wants to repeat the behavior, have that dopamine to repeat that behavior, you know, that they are carrying. So let's move on, please. I will not waste my time on this negative reinforcement because I've mentioned, earlier because of our time. I've talked about negative reinforcement. It's not a bad thing. It can effectively be used to get behavior started, but only positive reinforcement will keep the behavior going, okay? I've talked about punishment, P plus, and I've talked about P negative also. I may not want to waste time on that. P plus, something is added to the environment of the performer, which performer does not like, okay? Negative P means penalty, which is more stringent in terms of punishment, or maybe something that maybe somebody sacked because of behavior, okay? Like I've said, stopping problem behavior does not mean that desired behavior will also take place. And that's why we always look at P negative or P plus as not really an option, you know, to keep the behavior moving. There's what we call recovery. Example of what I told you the other time, when people have been punished before, okay, and they are no longer being punished again, their behavior will now return to the what we call pre-punished levels. Okay, and in fact, we get worse. The same Okada issue that I use as an example. Okay, extinction is when you introduce negative P. That's punishment. When you are reinforcing people before, you withdraw that reinforcement because they are not behaving the way they are supposed to behave. For instance, you can tell your child, oh, because you are not performing very well in your studies, I'm going to seize your bicycle. Okay, but you need to let him know why you want to seize that bicycle. I used to take you out, you know, every Sunday before. I'm not taking you out again. Okay, you withdraw that which is beneficial to that child. And if you change your behavior, I will continue to do this. Okay, that is what we mean by extinction. Then punishment trap. As a line manager, don't ever think punishment is when you yes, I dealt with him. Others will learn lesson. No. Okay. Punishment has its own, disadvantage, most especially penalty. And because of our time, I may not be able to expatiate more on that because I need to take you to what we call PIP, which I'm almost there, so that I can let you know how you can implement this in your various businesses. Now, what we call dealing with problem behavior? What are problem behavior? Unwanted behavior is called problem behavior. We have three methods in dealing with problem. Number one is what we call extinction. Then number two is what we call correcting. Then number three is what we call DRA. DRA means differential reinforcement of alternative behavior. So these are the three methods in dealing with problem behavior. When somebody is behaving anyhow in your company, how can you deal with such behavior? Extinction, correcting, and differential reinforcement of alternative behavior, otherwise known as DRA. For correcting, let me just quickly explain so that I will leave here. Extinction is the same thing as when you withdraw something that is beneficial to that person because of such behavior. Okay. Now, for correcting, basically, correcting is when you do what we call that's what we call you use carrot and cane approach. Okay. When somebody does well, you reinforce positively. You use R plus, and when it does the other way around, you use negative reinforcement as well. Okay, so that is correcting. Yoruba people will say meaning that you use carrot and cane approach to deal with such behavior. But differential reinforcement of alternative behavior is basically when you reinforce only positive behavior, when somebody is doing well, anybody that is doing well, you recognize that behavior and you reinforce that behavior, okay? So that other can also learn. It can be an accident for other people's behavior to behave very well. Then you now ignore anybody that is not behaving very well 100%. This is not a very good approach to correct the behavior. May I prefer the correcting method of dealing with unwanted behavior, okay? So all this I've explained. Now, let me quickly move on. Now, this is the practical aspect of OBM. I don't know if how many minutes do I have more, Mr. Wali, so that I can quickly summarize this PIP. This is a practical approach to OBM.
Yeah, we can still go until 6:45. Then we can have question and answers till 7 when we end it by 7.
Oh, okay. Very good. Then let me quickly rush this. Okay, now, this is what we call PIP. PIP means Performance Improvement Plan. This is what you call OBM intervention. How does it work? Okay. Now, this OBM approach, okay, so I'm trying to change to the next slide. Okay, so it's called PIP and it's the registration of an OBM intervention. There is a kind of behavior that you can no longer, condone. I've done the implementation in my company. Even outside Nigeria, we have done the implementation. So now, how does it work? It involves business case, it involves context description, then management summary at the end of the day. In fact, there's a software called OBM Optimizer. You have to subscribe for that. So OBM PIP has 7 protocols, okay? The number 1 protocol is what we call pinpointing. When you pinpoint, okay? I'm going to quickly explain that, okay? So you pinpoint. And how do you pinpoint? So you pinpoint, or let me first mention the 7 before so the second one talks about measure, while the third one talks about ABC analysis. We talk about that. Then the fourth one talks about performance feedback. Then the 5th one talks about you set sub goals. Why do you need to set sub goals? Why the number 6 talks about reinforcement, positive reinforcement, while number 7 is you need to evaluate, adjust, and conclude. So all this must be in a sequential order. You must not jump one over another. And I'm going to tell you why. Now, who can tell me, if you want to pinpoint, do you need to pinpoint results first or behavior? Which one will you pinpoint first? You want to see, there is a kind of a behavior you want to address in your company. Now, for instance, people were not using safety goggles when entering maybe chemical warehouse, okay? And you want to address that particular behavior. Now, you can use OBM to do that, and I'm telling you, it's going to work perfectly. Now, how do you do that? You want to pinpoint. Which one will you pinpoint first? Is it result or behavior? Who can tell me quickly?
Result.
Eh? Who said results? Who said results? Eh?
Behavior.
Yusuf.
Behavior.
Somebody said behavior.
Result. No, it's behavior.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. So now, if you pinpoint behavior first, it's called activity trap in OBM. So you need to pinpoint results. Then you need to know where you are going. Which result do you want? If you don't know the result, you can't know the behavior to drive the result. Okay. So you pinpoint result first, then you now pinpoint the behavior. Now, let me quickly go and talk about. So when you are pinpointing, you need to be specific. Don't just pinpoint all the behavior in the company. No, you need to take it one after the other. You need to take a battery. You need to pick a particular behavior that you don't like, that you want people to be compliant with. Okay. Then you need to be specific. When you are pinpointing, you pinpoint result first, then behavior. That's what I've mentioned. So, and we'll talk about result. Don't forget. So, how do you now pinpoint behavior? Okay. How do you pinpoint the behavior? We use what we call macro test. Macro test to pinpoint the behavior. What is macro test? I will not bother you about it because this is talking about pitfall in pinpointing. Don't pinpoint what you don't want less or what you don't even want at all. Okay. When you are confusing result and behavior, there are 2 different things. Or you are confusing result and KPI scores. There are 2 different things. But let's quickly talk about when you are pinpointing behavior, you need to ensure that your behavior you are pinpointing is measurable. You understand my point? It's measurable. You need to measure, okay? Then you need to also ensure that the behavior we are talking about is active. When it's not active, remember the dead man test, okay? It's also controllable. If you have employed somebody that you cannot control, then there's a problem, okay? Then talking about must be what? Must be realistic, okay? Then must be observable as well. Must be observable. Now, let's look at step 2. We are done with step 1, okay? Now, measure. How do we measure? Many don't like measurements. When you, at the end of the day, many people don't like, appraiser. But when you measure, it's going to reduce emotionalism. You don't just look at somebody and say, oh, I give you this. You need to measure based on performance, based on your judgment, based on, how you use data to actually, so that you don't reinforce wrong behavior. A lot of people reinforce wrong. Some people that do not deserve to be reinforced, they are being reinforced, wrongly. Okay? Some people that did the statistics, they will know type 1 and type 2 error. Okay? Now, we have 4 categories of measurement: quality, quantity, timeliness, and cost. When I did this project in one of our factories here in Lagos, I look at waste. You can use it on anything. I use it on waste generation, and it yielded results. Okay, very fantastic results. So how do we do this? You need to measure based on 4 categories: quality, quantity, timeliness, and cost. How do I mean? You may have good quality without quantity is useless. When I give you target of maybe 4,000 cases, maybe of water to produce, and you produce, I gave you 10,000 cases and you produce 2,000 cases, but of good quality. Is that a result? No, it's not a result. You need to measure it based on quality and quantity. Then I gave you 10,000 pallets to produce, and you produce 10,000 pallets. At the end of the day, 5,000 pallets are of bad quality, maybe no labeling, no coding, and so on and so forth. Is that a result? No. Then you have good quality, good quantity, and you deliver it late. Is that a result? No. Then I gave you budgets and you overshoot your budget, that the company is actually going bankrupt. Is that a result? No. So you must pair those 4 categories, together. For instance, if you ask somebody to wear safety shoe, are they wearing it correctly, on time, and so on and so? These are the things, you need to actually look at. Now, then there's what we call two measurement method. We have counting and judging. Judging is not a good method because you form an opinion. Just look at somebody, I like your face, and you reinforce. No, it has to, like I said, behavior is observable. It has to be a straightforward and reliable method, which is by data. Data needs to do the talking. Numbers, you set the target, I have to do this, and you are able to meet up with what you have set as a target, or even surpass that. Okay. Now, who can tell me which one is the best graph here? Okay, who can tell me the best graph here?
Graph 2.
Graph 2. Any other person? We are doing measurements. Any other person?
Graph 2.
Okay, thank you very much. Because of our time, there is none that is bad. You understand? Out of the 2, it depends on what you are measuring. For instance, if you are measuring productivity, it has to be going up. But if you are measuring waste, it cannot be going up. Do you agree with me? Okay. If you are measuring rate of accident, I believe the graph 1 would be the best. Okay. So there is none that is bad out of the 2. It depends on what you're actually measuring. Okay. So now the third one, which is ABC analysis. I've talked about this before, how you are able to investigate people's behavior. Remember, ABC analysis and consequence analysis goes together. Remember, we use PIC. Is it positive or negative? Is it immediate or future? Or is it certain or uncertain? So, we talk about this the other time. Okay, so we use this to investigate why will somebody be behaving in this way. Now, let me first explain. You have pinpointed the kind of result you want, and you have pinpointed the behavior that will drive that result. Then you now need to measure. In measurement, you need to take what we call baseline data. Okay, where were you, or where are you currently, so that you can be able to, marry apple for apple to say, okay, this is where you were, and this is where you are now, whether you are improving or not. That's what measurement is all about. Then you need to now investigate, okay, people have not been behaving well before. Why were they not behaving, well? Okay, you now need to now say, okay, investigate why. For instance, do you know that some people, like in one of our factories here, I realized when people use earmuff, there is heat, they are not feeling comfortable. So that's why you need to investigate why people are not wearing. Are they wearing one particular type of safety shoes that they do not like? You need to investigate that. And at the end of the day, you come up with, the reasons why, so that it can help you to drive the behavior. Okay. Now, ABC analysis, we talk about, you look at current undesired behavior, current desired behavior, and the desired future behavior. And you use your baseline measurement to actually to determine that. Okay. Let's quickly go to protocol number 4, which talks about performance feedback. Okay, this is very key, because after you have done the stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3, you need to call the team. You need to let them know this is what you want to do. This is the project you want to do. At the end of the day, anybody that does this, we have this reward. Anybody that does this, this is the consequence, and so on and so forth. You give them the feedback. You sit them down. You train them on this OBM, and you let them know the reason why you are doing certain things. But remember, performance feedback is not enough, but it has to be paired with consequence. Like I've said, when you do this, I'm going to reward you this. We're going to do this for you. At the end of the management, you call the best, blah, 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 blah. They will be willing, because you have paired the consequence with the feedback. Because the reason why performance feedback is not enough is that it can be ignored. You can give me feedback now. I say, well, I've heard you, but I will do which is in my mind. Okay? If it's not paired with consequence. Like I've said, performance feedback, it must be based on data. Okay? So that somebody can adjust his or her behavior. Somebody behaving very well. No, we have not been seeing you behaving in this manner before. Why are you not behaving, this way? You need to give the feedback and let them know the kind of project you want to do and how you want to, achieve such. Okay? Like I've said, performance feedback alone does not change performance. Feedback can be ignored. I've mentioned that. Okay? So, and when you are giving feedback, mostly let it be individualized, except it's a positive feedback. When you want to scold somebody, it's always done, one-on-one. It's good that way, and put, figures and let him know that this is what is happening and this is what the next line of action. So then there is what we call ineffective feedback. A lot of people, there's always an argument around this when we are delivering this kind of training. We call it sandwich method. It's a common used method, but flawed method for delivering feedback. When you, when you express both which is good and which is not good at the same time, it makes people to be suspicious. People will look at you that, oh, every time you give me positive reinforcement or you reinforce me positively, you say, well done, thank you. There must be bots. There must be bots. You guys have done very well, but no. When you want to give positive, give positive. When you want to give negative, okay? Then let's quickly look at step 5, which is set sub-goals. Basically, this step, set sub-goals is basically you set sub-goals so that you can have more positive reinforcement. That's the essence. And the reason is that when you have an overall business objective, you agree with me that people at the shop floor, they will never understand, they cannot interpret it. So they will give you an objective as a maybe production manager or as a safety manager. You have your maybe 0 accident, blah, blah, number of hazard to be raised, number of closeout of hazard, and so on and so on at the end of the day. So you need to break it down and give it to an individual, okay? So that they can have more, there can be more positive reinforcement. Maybe the number of people that raise the highest hazard at the end of the day. Not only remember measurement, quality, quantity, timeliness, and cost, okay? You don't just measure, you need to also, people can raise hazard. And remember, I also told you, don't reinforce the result, reinforce behavior that produces the result. Okay? For instance, if you ask somebody to raise hazard, people can just sit down in their office because they want to get the number. They will just be raising anything anyhow. But you need to look at when I'm reinforcing people on hazard raising, we'll look at the quality of what the person raised. Quality, timeliness, and so on and so forth. Okay? So that is about setting goals, setting targets. And you must set a very realistic target. Okay? Now, not only realistic, must be challenging and must be attainable. Okay? Now, shaping, I'm going to skip this because we do this during practical, okay? And it's very real, where we possibly reinforce successful steps towards some final goal. And the person will try to be making extra efforts. This is in the class, okay? Now, let's quickly look at 6. I'm trying to follow 6:45. In the next 2 minutes, I should be done. Protocol for organizational behavior management, talking about step 6, is positive reinforcement. We have talked about this. We have primary reinforcers, then we have what you call secondary reinforcers. Primary reinforcers, basically, they're all condition reinforcers, especially food, air, water. When you are tasty, you drink water, you are reinforced. That's the primary reinforcer, because you don't need to learn that. Sexual stimulation, you don't need to learn it. As the reinforcing effects do not require learning. That is what primary reinforcers are. But secondary, it requires learning. For instance, if they give you money now, if you are not educated, you cannot count money. Sorry, don't let me say if you are not educated. Some people that are not educated can also count money, but they learned it. For instance, if a child of 2 years old now, you want him to count money, I'm sure it's not possible. Okay? Maybe this is an AI age. Maybe it's possible. It will be very difficult, except that child learns it. Okay? Now, example of secondary, maybe money, applause, medal, certificate, and so on and so forth. How do we know the difference between primary and secondary reinforcement? We use what we call caveman test to do that. What is caveman test? What is desirable to a caveman is what we call primary reinforcers. But what is not desirable to a caveman is a secondary reinforcer. How? A caveman does not need money, does not need your medal. If you give a caveman certificate, it's useless. Okay? That's how we differentiate that. Now, we have a natural reinforcer, social reinforcer, thank you, well done, thumb up. All these can really increase behavior. Tangible reinforcer is also there. Now, how do you know what actually reinforces me? You need to try first, then later you can ask. Because it's not what reinforces you that reinforces me. Then you now need to observe, okay? Because at times you may think you are reinforcing somebody, but you are reinforcing wrongly. And your reinforcement will be useless. Just like you have a wife or a girlfriend, you want to give him something or her, so you want to give her something, and you just buy something that doesn't like. Your gift is a waste. You want to do a surprise, but at the end of the day, it's not appreciated. Okay, so that's what we call pre-maxing principle. How do we do that? When you observe that high probability behavior, the one that occurs predictably in a choice situation, may serve as positive reinforcer for a low probability behavior. This is just a grammar. Let me break it down for you. So, when you have a child, please be relating it to your office as I'm talking. I want to use the simplest method to just explain it. And a child will always like yogurt. You say, okay, before you eat your yogurt, because as a parent, I know that vegetable is more nutritious than yogurt, if you ask me, okay? So before you take your yogurt, please, you need to take your vegetable. That's what we call pre-max principle. You want to give them a task, do this, then I will do this later, okay? There is no time. Can I quickly just show this? Just maybe 2 of it. I want to use it to explain something. The clapping there is a reinforcement, okay? Now, what you are seeing here, you can see, they brought them, they called them to come and perform in these sport activities, but they have reinforcement for them somewhere, okay? Let's see one that scored. Okay, you can see that all of them, when they were coming, they come with maybe something like a hijab, or I don't know what it's called, or maybe, okay. Now, you can see, okay, let me pause this because of our time. Okay, let's see what kind of reinforcement that they're going to give there. Very good. You can see that because of time, I cannot go further. So now you can see children there. Now, children, the behavior of those women, they are trying to watch them. All of them, they were on maybe hijab. Sorry, permit me, but I don't know the right name. So, and maybe that's the kind of behavior they want them to demonstrate. That's why they brought them. At the end of the day, they now attach it to sport. You see, children looking at them, they see the way they dress, they will also want to actually emulate. And at the end of every activities, they are reinforced, but the reinforcement is actually different. Now, let's look at 4-4 rule. Before you apply one punishment, you must do what we call 4 positive reinforcement. Okay? That's what we call. Then there's what we call mistakes in delivering positive reinforcement. When you are delivering positive reinforcement, that's what we call perception error. Assuming that what is a reinforcer for one person also is a reinforcer for another, that's a serious error for you. Okay? Then contingency error is that when reinforcer and behavior are not related, you are reinforcing people wrongly. People don't even deserve that reinforcement, you are reinforcing them. Delay error, when you want to reinforce and you delay. And frequency error is when you don't reinforce enough or you over reinforce. Okay? Now, then reinforcement rewards bribery and manipulations. When you are confusing this together, I've talked about reward. You reward the result while you reinforce, the behavior. Then when you reinforce somebody before the task is performed, that's what we call bribery. And when you actually want to reinforce somebody, at the end of the day, you have agreed, you have promised, at the end of the day, you do not reinforce. That's what we call manipulation. Okay? Then we have the last one here, we have what we call schedule of reinforcement. We have what we call continuous schedule of reinforcement. Then we also have what we call intermittent schedule of reinforcement. These are the two types of when you are continually reinforcing people, okay? But intermittently, schedule of reinforcement is divided into 4. We have fixed ratio, we have variable ratio, we have fixed interval, then we have variable interval. For instance, fixed ratio is what we call piece wages, when you get paid for each unit that you produce, okay? That is fixed ratio. But when gambling is a variable ratio, that's why you see people continue to gamble, meaning that they believe they will win one day, which maybe they will never win. You see all this Baba Jebu, people continue to gamble, okay? Then fixed interval, tax returns. This is maybe tax rebate, which comes once in a year, blah, blah, once in a month, thereabout. Why variable interval could be audits, on and on audit, and so on and so forth. Sorry. Then last one, but not the least. All what we have mentioned above, you need to now evaluate, adjust, and conclude which one do you need to remove, which one you need to work on, how do you need to improve more, how do you need to sustain the current behavior, and so on and so forth. So maybe I'll play this last video, and then that's the end.
A young man saw his primary school teacher at a wedding ceremony. He went to greet him with all respect and admiration. He said to him, "Can you still recognize me, sir?" "I don't think so," said the teacher. "Could you please remind me how we met?" The student recounted, "I was your student in the 3rd grade. I stole a wristwatch belonging to my then classmate because it was unique and fascinating. My classmate came to you crying that his wristwatch had been stolen, and you ordered all students in the class to stand on a straight line, facing the wall with our hands up and our eyes closed so you could check our pockets. At this point, I became jittery and terrified of the outcome of the search. The shame I would face after other students discovered that I stole the watch, the opinions my teachers would form about me, the thought of being named a thief till I leave the school, and my parents' reaction when they get to know about my action, all these thoughts flowing across my heart, when suddenly it was my turn to be checked. I felt your hand slipped into my pocket, brought out the watch and dipped a note into my pocket. The note read, 'Stop stealing. God and man hates it. Stealing will embarrass you before God and man.' Was gripped with fear, expecting the words to be announced. I was surprised I didn't hear anything, But sir, you continued searching other students' pockets till you got to the last person. When the search was over, you asked us to open our eyes and sit on our chairs. I was afraid to sit because I was thinking you would call me out soon after everyone was seated, but to my amazement, you showed the watch to the class, gave it to the owner, and you never mentioned the name of the one who stole the watch. You didn't say a word to me, and you never mentioned the story to anyone throughout my stay in the school. No teacher or student knew what happened. This incident naturally taught me a great lesson, and I resolved in my heart never to get myself involved in taking whatever is not mine. I thought to myself, you saved my dignity. Do you remember the story now, sir? You can't simply forget this story, sir. The teacher replied, I vividly remember the story that I found the watch in a pocket, but I did not know in whose pocket the stolen watch was found that day because I searched your pockets while I also had my eyes closed. In life, we need wisdom for everything we do. As parents, teachers, pastors, leaders, etc. We should be able to close our eyes to some things. Not all misbehavior require punishment. Some will need encouragement, some mentoring, and some monitoring. Be a teacher or leader who inspires, not one who shatters.
All right, on this note, I want to say thank you for your time. Sorry, apology, I have to rush so that I can be able to maximize the time. Once again, thank you. I will stop sharing now. And over to you, Mr. Walew.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. That was very detailed. That was something exceptional, something unique, something from another angle when it comes to aspect of OBM and behavioral-based safety. And like he rightly said, one thing that struck me was the fact that you can actually apply this to every aspect of management system. And while he was talking, what was reminiscing all through my mind was the aspect of customers engagement, customer satisfaction. You know, as a business person, you need to look out for ways to satisfy your customers, make your customers happy and want to come again. And all what he was talking about reinforcing good behaviors, and also the frontline workers when it comes to customer satisfaction, the frontline workers, how to engage them. From the books I've read about engaging customers, customer satisfaction, apart from health and safety. So it is very true that it applies to so many aspects of different management system, even in quality management system. So thank you so much, sir. This was, you can see from the feedback, people are really applauding you for the justice that you have done to this wonderful topic. And for us to have this number of persons still glued to the screen till the end, you know, this is not a regular class where some kind of topics are being discussed. This is about knowledge. And when it comes to knowledge, only few people are really ready to actually spend their time to seek knowledge. And for us to have this number of persons, it means that you've really done justice to this topic. Once again, thank you so much, sir, for your time and for dedicating your time, your resources, putting them together in order to have this section with us. And before we go to question and answer session, because of time, we might not be able to take more. We have just 4 minutes left. Just one person, if you have a question, please, you can just raise up your hand. The first person to raise up his hand, you'll be able to ask his question. In the absence of no question, we really appreciate that. So on that note, we'll use this method. Okay, before then, Mr. Opatola said, thank you so much. Can you emphasize more on the pitfall 3? Focus on material C for the result mentioned in leadership. 3 pitfalls of behavioral change. What is the material consequence? So, can you respond to this, sir?
Okay, all right, thank you. You know, I mentioned 3 pitfalls when you use a material consequence for results, and when you focus too much on antecedent, then when you focus too much on a consequence, okay, negative consequence. Now, what I explained it, I said, do not use material consequence for result, meaning that's why I now said you need to reinforce the behavior that gives the result. Because, for instance, you ask somebody to do certain things for you, and you said, oh, when maybe produce something, maybe after the production, you count the number of cartons and you are giving material consequence. Maybe material consequence could be money, could be trophy, could be award. You understand my point? So at the end of the day, I tell you that particular person may not really take cognizance of quality. They will just want to add up the number. Whether when it gets to the customer, you can start maybe withdrawing some of this thing back because he has gotten the material consequence that he wanted. But I now said, instead of that, that's why it's a pitfall. You need to look for the behavior, positive behavior that drives the results. Okay? Because there is no time. I would have given you a lot of instances. So you need to look for positive behavior that gives you that result. That is the only thing that can keep that, behavior going, and that's giving you that result. If you look at the behavior that gives you the result, not rewarding, using material consequence to actually reward, the result. That is an explanation on that.
All right, thank you very much, sir. I think that is perfectly said, because while you are giving the response now, I remember I just finished reading a book on how to win customers and keep them for life. And one of those things that was discussed was exactly this. There is something that you reward, and that is the behavior. Because
exactly.
but because by the time you are rewarding just the result, a time will come that the focus will be, how do I just make up the results so that I can get this kind of appreciation.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, if the reward is if the behavior that will lead to getting that result, the process to that result that you reward, then it will be much more efficient. I think that is perfectly said. Thank you so much, sir. And that also applies to the workplace. There's a process, there's a behavioral process that you need to focus on, rather than just saying that if there is no injury, everybody will be giving so and so maybe Fanta at the end of the month. What about the process that leads to not having injury? If you use your PPE rightly, if you follow the SOP for working, if the process is what you should also emphasize on, rather than just focusing on the result. The two-way is very efficient, but most importantly, most times we ignore the process and we just focus on rewarding the result. And I think that is also what my Oga, Mr. Adedokun, just explained to us. Thank you so much, sir, for that detailed explanation. We sincerely appreciate you. Yeah, someone said this class is seriously mind-blowing and insightful. It should be 5 hours class. Yeah, he said it from the beginning. He said it should be a 3 days class. In fact, I'm even trying to. I will discuss with him if we can have him do this course on a video recorded, and we can have it as a course on our LMS, on our Tech Coach Academy, and people can have access to the full course at a very simple price. And I think that is part of what we are trying to do on Tech Coach Academy, when we can have these courses and details from experts. And instead of every time, like one of our delegates that took one of our online courses, he said, most times we do all these international courses just to get certificates, but these classes are actually very detailed and focuses on key aspects. All this, like this kind of course now, you won't see it on any international course that you go for. I don't want to start mentioning names. They are good, they have robust content, we are not disregarding them, but when it comes to subject matter topic and deep explanation, you can't get them. And it is best for courses, opportunities like this that give us the opportunity to learn from them. And that is why we keep thanking you so much for you giving us your time, your resources, in order to have this class with you. Thank you so much once again. So before then, let us present as a little gift. There's nothing that we can give you that can quantify the effort that you have put together today. But we would want you to, yes, I just use both now, like the explanation that you gave us on the sandwich. I also read about the sandwich in that book, because all what you are saying is actually relating to every part of management system. When you try to appreciate somebody, I now put both, that bot has actually nullified everything that you have appreciated so far. So how would I put it? I will come again with my statement. We appreciate you so far, and there is nothing that we can use to actually appreciate you for the kind of knowledge that you have empowered, that you have bestowed upon us. However, I think that is better. We have a little gift for you as a means of appreciating what you have done for us today. We appreciate you, and that is our little certificate of appreciation. This is our Enlightenment Series 81, meaning that this is our 84th session. We have done 80 sessions all since 20. We started during the COVID era, and it started as a means to create awareness about COVID, preventing COVID, doing the right things. And when we are at home, let us talk about health of safety, and it's metamorphosized. Why would they used to do that in English? It's metamorphosized, or it's metamorphosized into something elaborate, and we have enlightenment sections like this. And we are happy to have you on our 84th session, meaning that we continue to still have you again and again. This certificate is presented to Mr. Adedokun Babatunde for sharing his invaluable insight as a guest speaker at our weekly enlightenment series on utilizing the OBM principles to guide organizational behavior and drive cultural transformation. Please, sir, we want a word of acceptance of this certificate from you before we go to the next stage.
Sorry, we asked a question. It's going to be in form of a question. What is this called in OBM? We just finished the class.
What is? Yeah, it's a positive reinforcement.
All right, so I'm having a dopamine already. Thank you very much. Thank you. I really appreciate you, and I want to thank you for the opportunity. And I think you are really doing well. Please keep it up. I like your zeal. I like your energy. And on this note, I also want to thank all. Let me call you colleagues. Because we are just sharing knowledge. It's not me teaching, so we are sharing knowledge. So thank you very much for your time, for how you have even waited up to this moment. I appreciate you, and anytime, any day, I think I'm available. Thank you.
Okay. And that reminds me, our next topic for you, we're going to communicate with you, is going to be on that tripod beta model. Because people used to ask me about it. Whenever I want to take my course on root analysis, they'll ask me, did I talk about tripod beta? I said, yes, I talk about it, but it is not, I didn't focus on, because tripod model is a course on its own, if I'm correct. So it's part of our topic on our root cause analysis, but we will need to have you also to discuss with us on tripod model, which is one of the tools for incident investigation. Thank you so much, sir. And next is that we should know that in a couple of weeks again, we'll be having one of our panelists again at Setting the Pace. Yes, we have discussed with them, and they have aligned with us. So we'll be having them to discuss all what they want to tell us at Setting the Pace 3.0, because of their little time for panelist session. They will be here to actually enlighten us very more on them. Thank you so much, everyone. And on the last part, we'll be introducing to you next week on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We are having our advanced construction safety course. Advanced construction safety course. So if you have anyone that could join, or you have an organization that wants to register their team to join our class, yes, we are prepared to have them on board. And then upper week or next week, that is next week, we are already in a new week. So the following week, you're having our quality management system literature course, ISO 9001, and you want to miss our class. I'm very sure that you'll have been getting feedback. We have our delegates here. They will tell you how intense, detailed, and well understandable our courses are. We break it down into pieces for you to be able to grab the best out of our courses. So we are having that also. Then in a couple of weeks, we are having our integrated management system literature course. We are also having our Permit to Work course too. Permit to Work is also coming up very soon. And please, many of you have not visited our TechCoach Academy website. You will be intrigued. We have 10 courses there now. We have 10 courses on our learning platform. It is very detailed. Don't belittle it. It is very detailed. We operate what we call CDS principle, competency-based, video-led classes, deep learning classes, and self-paced. So visit TechWatch Academy. We currently have our 20% discount running for this month. TechSafetyCourses.com, TechSafetyCourses.com. This week, most likely, we are going to add more courses, and before we know it, we have enough courses for everyone. It's our goal to ensure that we spread that knowledge, we build that competency, we are actually competent in terms of education, training, learning, experience, and skills. And that is what we are after at Courthouse Safety Consult, to continue to add value to every professional. Once you come across us, once you get in touch with us, there must be that transformation when it comes to competency of every person that get in touch with us. Thank you all once again for keeping it up to this moment with us. We appreciate you. In case you missed any part, you can actually go on YouTube. You can actually go on YouTube to watch the class again and learn and learn and learn again. Everything is on YouTube for live as far as YouTube continues to remain. And that's part of what we do to continue to add value to individuals. Thank you so much. We can't continue to mention him. I can see many of us who've been here since morning. I can see Mr. Odusi, I can see Mr. Simon, I can see Mr. Oladimeji, Mr. Oladapo, I can see Miss Monica, I can see Mr. Kamaldeen, I can see Mr. Adesola, Mr. Amoko Samuel, Mr. Aziz, Mr. Bounty Gabriel, one of our past delegates. We hope to see you again. Mr. Wesley, yes, Mr. Yusuf, Mr. Toyose, Mrs. Teresa Olayinka, thanks for joining, ma. Mr. James, always here with us from time to time. Oyewale, my very good guy. Mrs. Olayinka Alabi, I saw Shinemi Okafu, I don't know if she's still here. Mr. Kingsley, thank you everyone. Thank you for joining, and see you all again in a couple of weeks as we discuss on another wonderful enlightenment series with Waliullah. Thank you and God bless you. So we can all unmute and appreciate our speaker for a well-presented.
Thank you very much, sir, for the knowledge shared.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, our speaker. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you so much,
Waliullah.
our speaker. Thank you. God bless you so much.
Mr. Wale, thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you,
doing
Oga Wale. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you also so much.
Thank you, Waliullah, for this session.
More
Thank you
grease
so
to
very
your
much.
elbow.
Simon,
Thank you, everyone.
by Sandy. Sandy.
All right. Thank you. So as usual, we are going to count from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 while we close the section. So we are going 10, 9, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3,